thank you for joining us for the Creating Mental Wealth Show. My name is Sherry James, and I literally could do a cartwheel right now, except I'm not dressed appropriately for that because my guest is one of my favorite humans. Dr. Phil Agrios is going to talk to us today about self-sabotaging and his amazing work that he's done in that space. It's transformed my life, so I'm excited to introduce you guys to Dr. Phil. Hi.
Hi, Sherry. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am so happy to be here.
I am so excited. You flew in for the show today, so
Yes.
I want to thank you, like in front of everybody, to let them know that your support has been just amazing, and I could not have gotten to where we are today without your support. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, you're amazing. You have so much to give, and I just want to be here to support it because you're impacting so many people. So you must support people that are impacting others.
Thank you. Well, speaking of impacting others, I mean, 30 years you've been talking about understanding our self-sabotaging traits. And so, like, tell our audience a little bit more about it. I mean, I could, because I think I could probably teach the class by now, but no, I'm kidding. So tell us a little bit more about this self-sabotaging trait that we all have.
Yeah, I was in practice for 35 years, and during that time back when, I would kind of wondering why my practice wasn't doing well at times, and with my children, my kids, and same thing, right? With my family and my patients, and wondering why they weren't always achieving where they really wanted to go. And I found myself on this journey, and I went through a lot. I went through a lot of tragic events and other things. All great. I have no regret because they allowed me to be here. They allowed me to discover what I did, and I found this on this journey, and I was able to discover a trait that we're born with. That actually, I call it the inborn sabotaging trait. And what happens is people think, well, sabotage, it's undermining, it's it's undoing things, and basically what it is, it's a protection.
Of course.
Because there's only two things we do. We protect, we grow, we expand, we contract, we give and take. We're vibrational beings. So understanding that when you are going into some difficulty, like anything else, whether it's your thyroid, adrenals, or anything in your organs, it goes into a protective mode. And that's what we do. We go into protection. And there's two ways to protect. There's withdrawal, and there's over-engaging. Right? So that's why people scream and yell, because they're subconsciously trying to push you away before they hurt. Or they'll go into a clamming and withdrawal so they don't get hurt. So when I really realized this, I was like, there's no way. There's no way this one trait has caused all my problems down to childhood. There's no way it's causing it now, and there's no way I can predict my future.
Wow.
So I didn't believe it. So I went out to try to disprove it. And over 30 years of thousands and thousands of people, I couldn't, and actually found a way to actually switch it off instantly, and it worked 100% of the time.
I love it.
Again, I didn't believe that. And again, as I looked at it more with the research we did, it was showing you that no matter who you were, whether or not you were a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company or a child, and this works with children and even teenagers. That's how powerful
That's
it is,
tough, because teenagers, that's
I know,
a different
right?
breed.
And imagine knowing the inborn sabotaging trait of your children or of your spouse or your boss or your potential client or whatever. You'll know exactly why they do what they do.
I love it. I know that, so when I was in your class, it was very interesting because I think I went through a little bit of denial. Like, I didn't want to believe that, I had this inborn trait that made me a supplier, so the work that I work, the space that I work in, we call it codependency, right? It's a thing. There's a class, there's a whole group you can join, right? But it was really interesting to find out the specifics about what triggers that supplier, saboteur, and you talk about the antidote, which we will talk about a little bit later. We're not going to give up all the good news yet, but let's talk about kind of the three different distinct self-saboteurs that we talk about in your class.
Right. So during the research, we were able to find that there's only three basic traits that are within us, and we call it the director trait, the communicator trait, and the supplier trait. Now, they're within us. And what I was able to understand is that they're then placed in a sequence. And when I realized that there was actually a dominant trait, a mediator trait, and a inborn sabotaging trait, and they were stacked like a seesaw type of situation. So the dominant trait is your superpower. That's your go-to. That's like, hey, that's my girl, right? You know, it helps you get out of situations, but what it does is it also puts you into more self-sabotage. The mediator is the bridge between that and the inborn sabotaging trait, which we call the saboteur. And we realized that there were only 6 patterns of human behavior. And when we looked at that and we realized that once you have this sequence, I can tell you everything about you and never meet you. I don't even have to tell you. You can have a spouse. I think we did that with one of your family members, if I remember correctly. That I asked you a few questions. I told you their sequence. You agreed, and I told you exactly how you two interacted. And I never met them, nor did I even ask you about how that was. We had a coach one time take the course, and she didn't have a great relationship with her husband. And so once she understood her sequence, she then started changing, and their relationship really improved because she also understood her husband's trait. And he never knew she was taking the course.
And you know what's amazing about that? And so, you know, we're talking about creating mental wealth and what tools that we need to have, you know, this diverse portfolio. But what you just said is so important. It's not just about understanding our own self-saboteur traits. But understanding that of those who are around us. So it changes not just my mental wealth, but those who are here to support me, those who I will meet at some point, that husband that will come at some point. I already know I've got him picked out. I figured his traits. No, I'm just kidding. So I like that. I like that your class teaches both from a personal perspective. So your Transcendence 101 talks a little bit more about my particular traits. And then I know you have Transcendence 201. And so we're going to go to a break in a little bit, but really quickly, tell me the major difference between both of those classes.
Well, Transcendence 101 from self-sabotage to self-made success it's a 5-week online group coaching course. It's just about you. It focuses on you because you have to focus on you before you change anything. Your outside world is you. The person you can't stand is a part of you you can't stand. They're just showing up to show you. And once you change that part of you, 2 things happens. They leave or they stay because they want to still stay and change because they want to still stay in your world.
I love it.
So, and then 201 deals with the business. During the process, I was able to find that each business has its own inborn sabotaging trait and antidote. So I have a workshop showing how we show business owners and their staff how they subconsciously sabotage the business.
Wow.
By using their personal saboteur to the business's saboteur. And then when we use their antidote to the business's antidote, it's like this valve of success that kicks in. But we can talk a little bit more about that business end of it. But yeah, there's only really 3 saboteurs. Out of 7-8 billion people, there's only 3. And that's the director, supplier, and communicator saboteur. And each one has its own particular characteristics. And that's that's the protective mode. That's where the challenges you come into. Because the saboteur, again, it doesn't undermine you. It actually protects you from the very success that you seek. Because that success, subconsciously, if you achieve it, is more painful. So then you just stay where you're at. Right? So when you start to release your personal professional power and you start to feel uncomfortable, that saboteur kicks in to protect you.
Except when you've identified your antidote. And when we come back from break, we'll talk a little bit more about the antidotes. We'll talk about how do you take this amazing class and find out more about yourself. And we'll talk about those antidotes when we come back. So we'll see you in a bit.
The easiest way to start your own podcast and TV show? Real News Communications Network. Stand out from your competition. Produce streams of high-quality social media content. Become a thought leader in your industry. With RNCN, you get to be the host. We handle everything else. Tour one of our 3 locations in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Colony. Call 972-402-6333 or visit launchashow.com to find out more.
Welcome back to the Creating Mental Wealth Show. I have Dr. Phil in the studio today. You didn't know that you were going to have it, Dr. Phil. We're talking about self-sabotaging traits and the antidotes. So before break, we talked a little bit about the 3 kind of distinct self-saboteur inborn traits. So can you remind us of what those are and then give us a little bit of detail on each?
A little bit of detail. Now, I'm going to explain each and every one of them. So I want you to realize that we all have all 3 within us. You're just going to use one more than the other.
Right.
So the director saboteur is a person who is scattered. They're all over the place. They'll get 99% done with something, stop, and they'll do something else because it's more fun. They don't like to be told what to do. They don't like responsibility, nor do they want accountability. Chaos is their friend because it stimulates the brain.
Yeah.
But then they can go to the other extreme, wait to the last minute, now they get hyper-focused. Right? Because they waited the last minute or they love what they're doing. They hate details. But if they love it, they'll just hyper-focus and they have a time distortion. What will take them 3 minutes, they think it's going to take them 5 hours and vice versa. Hey, honey, I'll be out in 5 minutes. And then 5 hours later, they emerge. One's like, that's my husband. Right? I wonder why he can't do that. So, and then what happens is then they get done, they feel good, and they realize, oh my God, I organized. I spent so much time here. I forgot about these things, and then they go back and they're scattered. So they have a directional problem. They always will have a situation where they'll go into too many different directions.
Right.
So that's the director saboteur.
Got it.
A supplier saboteur, yourself,
That's me.
is a person who overly gives. They overly share. They overly supply. They misunderstand selfishness, that they think it's self-nourishment. It isn't, right? They have a hard time taking for themselves because they're always focused on everybody else's feelings because they don't want to focus on their own because it's too painful when they think that's selfish. And they overly give, they're generous, and people don't reciprocate. So that way they can go back to the other extreme and get really, you've taken advantage of me, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
And they start taking for themselves. And then depending on the person's situation, they'll feel guilty. And they'll go back and overly give. So their challenge for the rest of their life is to a balance between giving and taking, okay? Because again, the saboteur, is there to evolve you.
Right.
It's not there to undermine and cause you pain. It's there just to protect you. The communicator saboteur is the one that doesn't express well. They don't communicate. You don't know what the heck they're thinking.
Right.
Okay, and they get mad at you because you try to guess and you guess wrong.
Right.
And they'll overanalyze or overthink things, get overly emotional about things, and then they have a hard time disconnecting. And then what happens is, after a while, someone disrespects them, they'll go to the other extreme, and then they'll blow up, or they'll tell them they're an idiot under their breath. Okay?
Quietly so.
Right, quietly.
Yeah.
And then they'll disconnect because
Right.
they have a hard time confronting because they don't want to feel stupid or embarrassed.
Right.
So those are the three. And again, you'll see a few of them within yourselves,
Yeah.
but it's where is that in the dominant trait? Where is that, are you the dominant director here? Are you the mediator here? And what's your saboteur? And they all relate to each other.
Yeah.
So when one goes down, the other one kind of goes up. So it's kind of a seesaw situation. So that's why once I know your sequence, I can tell you everything. And once you understand it, you can understand it so well. I had a manager one time come up to me during a workshop and said, my kid's always upstairs playing video games. I can't get them downstairs to interact. So I understood his sequence, asked him a couple of questions, understood his. So I said, look, do it this way. Within less than a week, his son was downstairs interacting with the family. And within 2 months, their relationship skyrocketed because he realized he was the one pushing his son in the room. His son was a communicator saboteur.
Right.
So he was making fun of him because that's how he grew up. Nothing wrong with him.
He was in Jersey, right?
Yeah,
He was-
no, actually he was someplace else. I won't say where. No, but hey, how you doing? Yeah, and then what happens is then he realized that he was doing the same thing in his business with his employees and started shifting that. And then that business grew. So what people don't realize is your professional and your personal life are one.
Absolutely.
And when you use your saboteur, both are affected at the exact same time. And when you use your antidote, both are affected at the exact same time.
Absolutely. I will tell you, this, I will probably be the biggest testimony that you'll have because I realized my supplier traits were bleeding over into my business, right? And one of the persons that was in my class with me actually made a comment of you give so much. You've been giving your whole life. You've been giving. And he said the opposite of giving is not asking. It is receiving. And you don't know how to receive. You're not comfortable receiving. And that was just this moment of okay, so now I know what I need to focus on, both personally and professionally, making sure that I value myself.
Exactly.
Right? And I'll tell you guys a funny story that I've had a couple of calls with Dr. Phil since I graduated his program. And I will make a comment well, one day I'm going to try to, and he's like, stop. Nope. Do it. No. what are you going to do? You are doing it right now. And so I want to talk a little bit more about kind of the antidote, right? So it's such a powerful tool, and it's like one word in a lot of cases,
It's
right?
so simple. And that's why for 30 years I said, this can't be this simple.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me 30 years to do this. This wasn't like, something I found like in a book or something. There's nothing like this. I always tell people, if you want to learn something totally different that you've never heard before, then come to the class. But yeah, the antidote is the exact opposite to the saboteur.
I remember us
So,
doing that.
and I said, people say, well, I want to overcome fear. I want to destroy fear. And I said, you never get rid of fear, because the opposite has to be there, right? Always, we live in a dichotomy world, left, right, up, down, yin, yang, right? So as much as your life is falling apart, it's as much as falling together.
Absolutely.
So if we're in, if you're in the northern hemisphere in December, you're freezing, right? But you're like, oh, this stinks. Well, you can take a flight and go down to the southern hemisphere and be warm. Same thing with that. Everything's within us. It's up to you whether or not who and how you want to tap into to show yourself in the world.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like my use of the word no has increased substantially since your class, but not just for the sake of saying no, but because I understand that I need to value myself. But I also find myself in my business becoming that director saboteur as well, right? Because I said yes to so many people, to so many things and so many activities. Now I've got too much to do and I can't finish any or all of them.
Because of the saboteur, not because you're scattered.
Right.
Right? So that's the thing, is one of the things we found is that, the domino masters, you probably see them on TV now. You push this one domino, goes, right, the last one hits, and let's say balloons are released.
Yeah.
What's the last thing you see?
Balloons.
The balloons.
Yeah.
That's your imposter syndrome. That's your anxiety. That's all the things you see and feel last.
Right.
So we take our coping methods and do what? We put them on the balloons, not the one domino. And that's the saboteur. That's what we're able to find. We've had people with anxiety, PTSD, whatever, and they realized when they did the antidote, and we've had people, we had a vet who had PTSD, 5 tours. When I told him the second week, I said, take the antidote to your therapist. Because a lot of times therapists and coaches will focus on the dominant trait and the media trait because that's what you show them, not the saboteur. And once he did that, within 2 weeks, he had made major breakthroughs because they focused it. Because the antidote goes directly to the subconscious mind. We found that out. One of the things we found out, I had a Parkinson patient, because I used to treat autoimmune patients. And he was doing fine. That time we were doing handwritten, not the digital work that we have. And as he was getting down to knowing his saboteur, he started to shake, and his jaw started to shake. And I just sat back and went, and he got done. I said, that was interesting. He goes, wow. He goes, as soon as he realized that, he had a subconscious release. Once he did the antidote, he would then stop.
Wow.
So it was really interesting seeing that this goes right down to the subconscious mind, because that's why it can shift that quickly.
Yeah, and I think it's an important tool when it comes to creating mental wealth, not just creating it, but maintaining it, right? And so we've had other episodes where we talked about that emotionality of success. We talked about how to get rid of past traumas and things like that. But to me, when it comes to creating and maintaining mental wealth, tools like your, self-sabotaging class, I feel is going to be like every day I find ways of hearing Dr. Phil in my ear. I'm like, wait, what are you doing right now? Are you being a supplier? Are you in your, director? Saboteur. I mean, I see myself in all 3 of those places, because you said they all
but
3.
It always comes down to the one.
Absolutely.
20 years from now, and how do I know 20 years? Because I've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
I will meet somebody and they'll tell me something, and I'll say, that's your saboteur. And they go, it is. Because it comes down to the one thing. And that's why I was like, this can't be this simple. And it is.
It is. I love it. Well, so tell me how I should have people get in touch with you, because everyone's going to want to know more about this self-sabotaging traits and their antidotes. And so tell the audience how to find you.
Well, we have a 9-question quiz,
Okay.
only 9 questions. And within about a minute, you are given your inborn sabotaging trait and your antidote for free.
A minute. 1 minute and for
it's
free.
9 questions. That's
Okay.
all it is.
All right.
And you can go to Sab Quiz. Remember sabotage. We don't say sabotage quiz because people have a hard time spelling sabotage. Sometimes I do. I'm like, why don't I know that?
That's funny.
But it's sabquiz.com. Sabquiz.com. You get it, and then you'll get the results. And then just listen to what the results say and do what it says.
Yeah, I think I am so glad that I met you. I'm so glad that I was able to benefit from the class that you offered. So much so that I've incorporated it, and we had the opportunity to incorporate some of Dr. Phil's content in the Creating Mental Wealth retreat that we had. Was it like 3 months ago or so?
Yeah.
And so I love that what you're doing is giving us the opportunity to learn more about ourselves, to become more mentally wealthy and move forward. So we're going to take a break, I think. And then when we come back, we will talk. I've got a special question for you.
Ooh,
It's going to be awesome. All right, we'll see you back in a sec.
The easiest way to start your own podcast and TV show? Real News Communications Network. Stand out from your competition. Produce streams of high-quality social media content. Become a thought leader in your industry. With RNCN, you get to be the host. We handle everything else. Tour one of our 3 locations in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Colony. Call 972-402-6333 or visit launchashow.com to find out more.
Hey, welcome back to the Creating Mental Wealth Show. We are with Dr. Phil Agrios, and we're talking about self-sabotage. We're talking about the antidotes. I've got a special question for you. I wanted to just, it's the last, like, a couple of minutes of the workday.
Okay,
it's time.
Let's get it. Let's do it.
I want to know if you remember what my profile was.
Yeah.
You were supposed to pause and be like,
No,
no,
I know.
don't
I know
remember."
your profile.
Okay, so tell me about me.
So your superpower is communication. You love to connect to people. Actually, what we teach people is that your dominant trait is why you're here on earth. But yours is that you love to connect to people, right? I wonder why. And but when something doesn't work, you like to disconnect it and reconnect it so it makes it work. But when you go into when you don't handle things, you want to help people so much that you vomit. You just vomit communication. You overwhelm them, right? And they can like. I wanted to talk with you, but now you're freaking me out and I'm shutting down, right? So, and people like salespeople will do that. So, so what happens is that because you're not valuing you, you use your superpower to try to show them how valuable you are, which in turn devalues you, right? Yep. So when you use the antidote, so you're over-communicating, when you use the antidote, it immediately allows you to become a great communicator. You don't need communication skills. You're awesome. That's what you do. But when you use an antidote, it becomes immediately effective. Then there's times when then you overly give to yourself and you will shut down. Like, where's Sherry? Hello, for a couple of days, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden you'll come back out again because you feel guilty, and then you kind of have this seesaw effect.
Right.
Is that?
Yes, sir. You nailed it, actually. I don't know. Did he nail it? Because you guys know me. Okay. I'm like, you guys know. All right. So that's very spot on. I think what I've learned since I've taken your class is the importance of how to proactively disconnect. So I have a trip coming up soon so that I can on purpose disconnect before it causes, that kind of chasm of like, what happened to Sherry? There was Sherry, and then no Sherry. And so because of my project management background, and now because of the tools that I've gained in your class, I'm going to be more intentional about when I disconnect so that people know that I'm doing it in order to value myself, and not to disconnect from them or to take away from them. And so that's, I'm a work in progress. I know that
we all are.
Yeah, it's not.
If you think
done.
you have it down, then you shouldn't be here, and that's probably why you're going to leave. But no.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from, but anyway. But yeah, it's you have to realize you're not here for things to go great for you.
Right.
You're here for the contrast, right? Because if everything went well for you, we would have a segment on how bored you are.
Right.
So what happened yesterday, Sherry? Well, I had another $1 billion. Oh, that's great. What'd you do for it? Nothing. Yeah. You'd be bored. And some people are like, are you kidding? No, you would be bored. Yeah. Because you're here for the adversity, because the adversity does what? It evolves you. Absolutely. And the saboteur evolves you. But when you get to that point, so when you get really excited, get depressed or whatever the case may be, get excited because you're ready to evolve.
Yeah. And that was hard for me in your class. It was very difficult because I was used to saying, "Oh my gosh, this is not working," or "This is not where I thought it would be," and to have that paradigm shift to say, "But that means something great is coming," right?
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that
you're
means
ready
that I'm
there.
on my way.
You're just there and you're freaking out and you're just protecting yourself because you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
When you have the antidote, you know exactly what to do, which is the exact opposite, and you go through it.
Yeah. Now my three, there's act, feel, think,
right.
right? And so what were my three?
You had to be, what happens is you become emotional first, and then you shut down your feelings, right?
Yeah.
What has to happen is you have to feel first, and then act.
Yeah.
And when you do that, is a shift. And that's why it was so simple, of just 3 words, depending on how those words are placed in your sequence.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw people in the classes. I mean, I can show people automatically over and over again. I had an acupuncturist doubled his practice in 5 weeks because he was a supplier saboteur. And he realized he was overly giving and
Yeah.
didn't feel valued. As soon as he was doing the things we were telling him to do, he shifted. So, yeah, once you know that sequence, I mean, you allow yourself to have the success that you deserve. That's your right. It's actually your birthright to be successful.
Absolutely. And it's something that we're not used to, right? It's the concept of being wealthy, right? People, there are different phases of wealth, of course, when you're speaking financially, but the same thing applies when it comes to mental wealth, right?
Absolutely.
This is definitely something that we want to have in our coffers for a long period of time, right? It's not something that's a turn on and turn it back off, right? I can use this skill forever.
It's always there with us. See, people go, well, I have this lack of money. I said, no, you don't. I had a person say, well, I lost my confidence. I said, no, you didn't. It's in you. You're just using the opposite side of it. So it's there. You know, I had patients who would, who were diabetics and stuff like that. I remember this one lady, and I used to like to clown around with my patients, and she was like, oh, I'm a diabetic, I'm a failure, I haven't lost weight, I'm a failure at losing weight, and I'm tired. And I said, no, you're really successful at gaining weight and being a diabetic.
Wow.
Fantastic. You are so successful. So let's just do the exact opposite of what you've been doing to get you where you need to be. And you should, people, they will look at it like, what? So yeah, you are successful and you are a failure at the exact same time. Which side do you want to look at?
I love it. I love it. So what's next? So tell me, so I've already gone through your Transcendence 101 class. I have a certificate and everything. I graduated. Yay for me.
Yay.
So, tell me kind of what's next. So from an evolution perspective, and I know that I still have my therapist, I still have my team of professionals. But what advice would you give to those people who have taken your course and they're on the other side of it, right? What does success look like continuously? How do we keep the skills that you taught us?
Well, it's just consistently looking at it as well. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what I discovered. There's a 6-step blueprint that nature uses to come back from her storms, and I was able to find it. And we have the same 6-step blueprint. So when you find that blueprint, you can solve any business or personal problem, guaranteed. When in the business world, when you don't sell, when you don't close, it's your saboteur stopping you from closing because it's actually more painful to close that person.
Wow.
And we actually show that person that. Imagine knowing each and one of your children. We've had people on the brink of divorce now are still married because I was showing them you don't hate each other, you're just protecting yourself from each other. And when they understood each other, it would shift. That's why I had very high success rates with autoimmune patients, because what would happen is we were showing them how actually health was more painful to achieve than staying in their disease state.
Wow.
And it was because of the saboteur. So they would go into eating pizza. They'd go, hey, are you going to kill me? I had pizza. I said, I'm not going to kill you. How do you feel? I felt horrible for 4 days. I said, I'm glad you did, because I want you to remember that. But I'm curious, knowing that you would have 4 days of pain, what happened before? And what was happening before it was too painful for them to focus on. So what would they do is they would have this trigger, they would go into the antidote, and they would go numb themselves. Food, drugs, cigarettes, whatever. But when they used the antidote, by focusing on that trigger and use the antidote, we found 2 things. They would lessen the numbing, or they would not go there at all. So therefore their flare-ups wouldn't be there. And that's what we do with everyone, whether or not it's mental, whether it's health, whether it's business. It's the same thing over and over again. It's the same actor, different clothes.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
I'm grateful to you for your work and also for your support. So thanks for helping us try to make this paradigm shift from mental health to mental wealth. And so you can find Dr. Phil on LinkedIn. I think that's my favorite way. So find Dr.
All
Phil
different
Agrios.
social media, or go
yeah.
to sapquiz.com.
Sabquiz.com. I knew I was going to blow that.
You gotta make
I don't
it
even
simple.
know what, I know, and I still messed it up.
Well,
It's
no,
okay.
no, it's okay. It's all good.
It's all good.
It's
That's
okay.
true. It's good.
It's okay.
So the three things that you want to leave me with then.
Real quick, is that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just in protection. 2, you have an antidote within you to switch that off, which is the exact opposite to that. And 3, it's okay. It's okay. You're going to go through this. It's just another challenge for you to evolve. And that's it.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm like totally remotivated. Y'all can clap. It's fine. That's the whole point of having a live studio audience. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Creating Mental Wealth Show. We've had an amazing time. This is a wrap for season 1. Woo! So we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for helping us to save lives one heart at a time. Bye.